Hello, my name is Sivan Regev, and I'm a PhD student in the Occupational Therapy Department, Faculty of Social Welfare and Health Sciences at the University of Haifa, Israel. My lecture today, with both eyes open, translational research using eye tracking combined with performance-based evaluation among people with severe mental illnesses, is part of my PhD dissertation, supervised by Professor Naomi Josman from the Occupational Therapy Department and by Dr. Avi Mendelsohn from the Sagol Faculty of Neurobiology, both in the University of Haifa. In this picture, you see me at the beginning of COVID-19, which we will talk about at the end of the presentation, standing in the middle of a local supermarket. And it's not a coincidence. It's because the research is taking place in a supermarket. The performance-based evaluation is a test of grocery shopping, which I'll talk about later on. Before we start walking at the aisle of the supermarket, I want to talk about the basis and the aim of the study. A year ago, we published a systematic review asking which everyday life and executive function evaluation courses there are for people with severe mental illness in the research. We found 104 articles, international, across professions. Down here you can see the occupational therapy and psychiatry articles marked. There were also cognitive science and so on. Every year it gets more and more attention, and you can see in this chart that the sample size is getting large every year too. One of the assessment type we found in this review was performance-based observation, and the aim of this study is to bring together performance-based observation and cognitive science methods to provide insight regarding real-life behavior and problem-solving in severe mental illness population. The test of grocery shopping skills, the TOGS, was developed in 2000 for people with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder. Here, they asked to find 10 items listed in a list they'll get in the beginning by the lowest price. Let's see what is the expected sequence of performing this task. First, the first step is to start. When the subject gets the list of 10 items, we expect him to screen it, to plan the task, how he's going to perform the task, and then move on to step 2. Step 2 is item detection. We expect the subject to walk around the supermarket looking for the 10 items, maybe asking for help from the staff, maybe using the sign. Each subject has his own strategy of how he's doing it. When the subject finds an item, detect an item on the shelf, we expect him to stop, stand in front of the shelf, scan the shelf, look at the size of the item, the price of the item, compare between items, and then select the right. I remind you, it's the lowest price item. Then he'll continue. You see here, there's continuing back to item detection and selection and so on for 10 items. After collecting 10 items, the subject is heading to the endpoint, and he might stop before heading or when he arrives to the endpoint and monitor his performance, look if what he has in the chart is what listed in the list. To this performance of the TOGS, we add eye tracker, which will help us to deepen our understanding about the performance. Now when we know how it looks like, let's talk about the outcome measures we have from both eyes. So from the eyes of the researcher, we have the outcome measure of the TOGS, efficiency and accuracy. Efficiency is described with total time in seconds, and redundancy was scored by the path the subject is moving in the supermarket. You can see it in the map down here. And the redundant time you walk in an aisle. Accuracy is marked by 3 subscores: the correct item, the correct size, and lowest price. Let's move to the eye of the subject. There are many potential outcome measures from the eye tracker, and we chose to focus on fixation amount, the count of fixations, and fixation duration. In this presentation, I'll show you results from the fixation count, which we divided by 16 area of interest. There's a map down here of the 16 different area of interest, which we grouped to written information and non-written information, and we'll focus on the written information for the decision making of the lowest price item. This is the time to bring both eyes together and see the results. So first I want you to notice that we analyzed only 4 items: the spaghetti, the paprika bar, the soap, and the can of corn. These 4 items were consistently on the shelf of the supermarket as you wanted them to be, with options that the subject can select from them. On the left, you can see an example of heat maps from the can of corn event, one for the SMI group and one for the control group, which can give the understanding of how it looks differently from both groups. And let's see the results. All item selection, all 4 item selections, was greater percentage of fixations by the SMI group when scanning written information relevant to decision making. So how we understand it. We suggest that subjects from the SMI group made all the process in front of the shelf, while control group subjects made some part of the process while walking in the supermarket and not specifically in front of the shelf. For example, if you remember in the beginning, I showed you this subject that screened the list, and he screened it very deeply. He scanned most of the list. So part of the information he remembers or used during the task, and not only first time when he stands in front of the shelf. And then he needed less fixations to pursue less fixation while he was standing in front of the shelf. This make the understanding of efficiency of task performance as a process of planning and gathering information during the whole task of grocery shopping. Before I'll talk about future research, I want to talk about this research limitations. Stepping out of the lab is exciting, and I learned a lot about it, but the supermarket is full of intervening variables, especially when COVID-19 arrived at the game. Therefore, we had to stop data collection in the first lockdown, and the small sample of the SMI, which was even before because people were not eager to come to the supermarket, was even smaller when we had to stop. I suggest in future research to choose other tasks relevant for the SMI population to enhance research compliance, maybe tasks with the same outcome measures, but in less stimulus context. Also to have larger sample size that these findings can be generalized, and to address planning as a specific executive functions component, we plan to do it. So again, I invite you to follow my publications. Thank you for listening.